I'm Jason with the All Things Open team. I'm here with Brent. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, Jason. Well, thanks for having me. First off, I just want to say congratulations to you guys on the We Love Open Source site. Great resource. Been really excited to see all the articles. Great job with that. So looking forward to everything else that comes with it. I'm Brent Laster. I am a trainer now, primarily trainer, author, writing a couple of books and teaching some classes for platforms like O'Reilly and occasionally working with All Things Open as well. And my background is that I was a developer and a manager and director in various roles, DevOps, release engineering, product development for a number of years. So a lot of corporate experience, but now I'm having fun doing the more interesting stuff.
Let's talk about development environments and how they've changed over the years. What have you seen and what's interesting to highlight?
You know, it's a great question, and it's hard to cover in just a few minutes. Some things that come to mind, though, are, the innovation we've seen in things like cloud, containers, now, of course, AI, CI/CD, those kinds of things. It sort of strikes me that, thinking about what's really changed a lot is what we've optimized for. When we were starting out with like CI/CD, we started optimizing for speed and consistency and those kinds of things. And all of a sudden it became about, can we do this consistently? Can we do it regularly? Can we do it much faster than we did in the past? And, even things like moving into the cloud side of things, we started optimizing for the cost factor. How much does it cost to run this in the cloud? And all of a sudden things that we might have just left running became very critical to control the cost, scale up, scale down around the holidays, like for retailers and such as that. And, in the container world, we got into that, and it was about getting it into the breaking up the monoliths and running into the microservices and optimizing for size and function there. And also for things like being what's called stateless, not being, if your container got killed off and got restarted, being able to restart. So, it's all been a development, still writing code and still writing testing and all that, but it's been a more targeted about what we're really trying to optimize for in that.
Interesting. Yeah. Great. Well, let's talk about AI. That's a hot topic right now. What should developers consider when they're looking at AI to elevate their software development practices?
I think one of the key things that I've said in a lot of the training I've done on AI to folks is don't think of it as the AI pair programmer. There's a lot of sort of press out there that says, hey, this is just like another programmer on your team, and it's a pair program there too. And I think if you go into it expecting it's going to understand all the nuances and all the background of it, you're going to be disappointed. What I tend to tell people is think of it as if it was a new person starting on your team. AI can contribute things, it can code, but at its core, it's really a prediction engine. It knows how to do certain things well. It knows semantics, it knows syntax, but it doesn't know all the background, all the nuances, and what's intended there. So treat it like you would a new developer on your team that you're bringing in, and you want them to go off and do some tasks, but you're still going to have all of the quality checks, all of the balances in there, the code reviews, the testing and everything as well. Because what we've seen, I think, in reading about some of these different studies and such that have been done, there's a lot of buzz over AI generating things and people putting it through, but then when it gets to the point where they start trying to merge it in and start trying to use it in production, it fails the checks or it fails the pull request. So you have to treat it more like it's somebody new to the team who is capable and able to do what the task you kind of need, but needs that same sort of quality checks and reviews in there. And I think if you take that approach, that makes things a little bit easier.
I think that's great advice. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. Well, let's keep diving into that. What's your personal experience been using AI tools?
It's been really interesting and actually very fun. I've been developing a lot of courses around AI and sort of things like running local language models on your own system using things like Ollama and Hugging Face Community and stuff. So I've gotten a lot of experience with it. And a couple of things about it. One, it is just changing at a crazy rate. It's the new cool kid in town. So it's the new thing that's going to keep evolving and lots of things too. And there's always sorts of things you can learn with it. My experience, I've had experience from a couple of levels. When I was in my corporate role, I was leading a pilot for an R&D organization and rolling it out. And from that standpoint, a couple of things about it. People were apprehensive about it in terms of Is it going to be viable? Is it going to be something that we can legally do and stuff? And one of the things I kind of told people was, this is a evolved version of Stack Overflow, right? Developers who go out to Stack Overflow, look at code, look how to do something, bring it back in. And that kind of helped to, I think, put it in perspective. But my experience with it has been fun and interesting to work with. It's also, like any other skill, I think it's something you have to picture as a tool in your toolbox, and you have to really understand the tool, get trained on it, and know how to use it. In the same way we used to, talk about searching in Google, right? You can get results in Google by any kind of blunt force search, but if you really get precise about what you're asking it, you get much better results. The same thing with AI. If you get better about the context you give it and what you tell it, then you get better results. So it's a tool, and we need to learn to treat it that way.
Awesome.
Hey, this is Todd with All Things Open. Thank you so much for watching. We truly appreciate it. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button. We've got a lot of new content coming we think you're going to be interested in. One final favor, be sure to go to allthingsopen.org to see everything that we do. Back to the video.
Well, do you have a favorite AI tool or a favorite platform that you've been digging on lately?
I've used a couple of them. I've used Copilot, GitHub Copilot. I've used Codium, which is a nice free alternative there. And I've started to use Tab9. They all seem pretty comparable in those respects. I like Codium just because it's free and pretty straightforward to use for individual use. When you get up into the GitHub space, enterprise and stuff, it's Copilot is nice, but maybe the more fun thing is using the large language models you can run on your own system. I've been using a tool called Olama to run some of the language models, so you can set up your own chat bots and things locally. So it's pretty cool, all the different open source tools and such that we see coming out to help people learn about this and play with.
Do you have a recommended project or a way for someone to get involved with AI? Like, if I wanted to do something with AI right now as a newbie just to get started, what's something I could do?
I think, if you go out to like Hugging Face, huggingface.co. If you go to huggingface.com, that's an emoji site, but huggingface.co is a large community there. And there's a lot of, you can search for different models. And even if you don't know what model you want, there are different ways to qualify it. Like, I want a model that can take text and create a picture, or I want something that can do text conversion or translation and such in there too. So just going out and searching around the models, if you go on there, they have what they call model cards, which are pages about the models. And a lot of them will have, how do you use this? And they'll have like Python code that you can immediately just copy and paste in there. So I think that's a great way just to start playing with it from that respect. Or go out and get Codium. Go out and get the trial of Copilot. If you're a coder, pop it into your development environment, play with it, query it, and then go from there.
Great. Well, last question for you. Any best practices that can help the ATO community save time or help people get started more quickly?
Yeah, I'll go back to the generative AI stuff since that's what I've been focused on lately. A couple of points here. One that's really, one I've already said, thinking about AI as sort of that, person who's new to the project, or that thing that knows the semantics and the syntax, but still needs you to guide it, still needs you to review the results, ensure quality there too. But another thing that I don't think has been mentioned quite enough is these language models, are trained on a version of data that is only current at a certain point. In fact, in some of the tools, you can ask them, what's the version of X? And it'll just say, as of my training in September 2021. Got it. It was whatever. So we're a couple years out of date. So one of the things that I usually tell people to do when they're using these coding assistants, for example, is go in the chat interface and ask the tool, what is the current version of whatever framework or language you're using? And that will give you hopefully an indication of what it thinks the current version is. So then you can be aware if there are significant changes, if it's been a couple of years, you can go look at the changes that have come into the newer versions of the language or the framework and get an idea of what to watch out for, because it may produce deprecated code or old code. Yeah.
That's great advice. Thanks for sharing.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot for having me.